Welcome to the Explainer. So, you're looking to become a full stack developer, and honestly, that's a fantastic goal. But hey, before we spend months heads down writing code, there's a really important question we've got to ask ourselves first. Is it even worth it in 2026? I mean, the industry is shifting so incredibly fast, we need to know if the demand is actually still there.
Well, let's look at the hard numbers for a second. A quick search over on Naukri shows upwards of 35,000 active full-stack developer jobs right now. To put that into perspective, that is literally more than machine learning, data science, and cloud roles combined. And get this, if we look at the 2026 job posting specifically for freshers in India, a massive 40% of all roles are in software development. So yeah, it is definitely one of the most fresher-friendly careers you could possibly choose today. Okay, let's dive straight into this roadmap. Today, we'll be looking at the new demand of 2026, how to choose your tech stack, adopting the 70-20-10 rule, your exact 6-month roadmap, standing out with AI integration, and finally, job and interview prep. As a senior software engineer at JP Chase over in the UK, I get to see these trends playing out right in front of me every single day. Part 1. The new demand of 2026. Look, the reality is the full stack role has completely transformed. Companies, they just don't want basic developers anymore who only know how to spin up some simple React and Node app. That era is totally over. The gap between a traditional developer and a modern one is huge right now, especially when we talk about compensation. A normal fresher with basic coding skills is probably looking at a salary of around 5 to 8 lakhs. But an AI-skilled profile, meaning someone who actually knows how to bake AI features right into their apps, they are commanding 10 to 12 lakhs. Modern job descriptions are actively asking for candidates who can use AI to write and debug code as a core responsibility. Honestly, if you aren't doing this, you are leaving serious money on the table.
Moving on to part 2, how to choose your tech stack.
Now, this is exactly where so many beginners get incredibly confused. And without clarity here, you can easily waste 6 to 8 months going down the totally wrong path, ending up frustrated and thinking there are 0 jobs out there. I know, because I was jobless for a whole year after graduation, just from a lack of direction. So let's break down the 2 most popular options, the MERN Stack and Java Full Stack. Java actually has higher raw job numbers, around 8,700 plus, and those are mostly in banks and enterprise companies. But for this explainer, we're zeroing in on the MERN Stack. Why? Well, because you only have to learn one language, JavaScript. It gives you a much faster entry speed of about 5 to 6 months, targets startups and product-based companies, and crucially, it's a completely natural fit for the new AI ecosystem. Java, on the other hand, can be a bit clunky and complex for AI integration. Which brings us to Section 3, adopt the 70-20-10 rule. Before we even talk about exactly what to learn, we absolutely have to fix how you learn. If you're just sitting there watching 10 to 20 hours of courses before you ever build a single thing yourself, you're going to forget like 70% of it by the time the video ends. This is what we call tutorial hell. It's this crazy illusion of learning where watching someone else type makes you feel super competent. But the very second you open up a blank code editor yourself, your mind just goes totally blank. We have to avoid this painful trap at all costs.
The fix for this is the 70-20-10 learning strategy. 70% of your time should be spent actively building, breaking things, fixing code, and creating actual features. Then 20% goes into learning new concepts and reading docs. And the final 10% is dedicated to problem solving and data structures and algorithms, or DSA. So a sample daily schedule could look a bit like this. 30 minutes in the morning learning a concept like arrays, then spend 2 solid hours using AI assistants like GitHub Copilot or ChatGPT to actively build something, like a to-do app. Finally, spend 45 minutes in the evening solving related DSA problems.
Section 4, your 6-month roadmap. All right, now that we have the right framework in place, let's turn all this theory into reality with an actionable step-by-step timeline. Here's the big picture. Months 1 and 2 are totally dedicated to the front end. Month 3 is all about the back end. Month 4 is where you integrate them both together. Month 5 is reserved for Next.js and AI. And finally, month 6 is all about polishing your portfolio and crushing those interviews. The beauty of this exact timeline is that every single month is perfectly designed for you to build tangible, working projects. Let's break it down a bit further.
Starting with months 1 and 2, you'll master HTML, CSS, and Git version control. But pay really close attention here, you need to learn JavaScript and TypeScript. TypeScript is absolutely mandatory if you want those 10 lakh plus jobs. Companies are rarely writing in plain JavaScript anymore. You'll also pick up React and Tailwind. For your projects, you're going to build your personal portfolio and a weather app using external APIs. Oh, and remember that 10% rule? Make sure you start doing 1 or 2 easy DSA problems focused on arrays and strings right from day 1. Then we hit month 3, which is where your app finally gets a brain. You'll learn Node.js, Express, and MongoDB to save your data. You're also going to build a blog REST API. But listen up, this is critical. You have to master authentication using JWT and password hashing. This stuff is heavily tested in interviews, so you absolutely must understand how to secure data and user logins. Alongside all of this, your DSA focus will shift over to recursion and 2-pointers.
Month 4 is the big one, full stack integration. You're going to connect your React frontend directly with your Node.js backend, handle state management, and properly manage errors. The goal here is a major, heavy lifting project, like an e-commerce site or maybe a social media clone. This is also where your DSA studies, specifically hash maps, become incredibly relevant. Why? Because the key value concepts you learn in DSA are the exact same underlying logic you'll be using when you interact with your databases. They just naturally support each other perfectly.
Section 5. Stand out with AI integration.
This right here is how you transition from being a good developer to a top 1% developer. This is easily the most critical phase for 2026, and it's exactly what will separate your resume from the 50 other identical fresher resumes sitting on a recruiter's desk. To put it bluntly, standard MERN is just not enough anymore. Knowing MongoDB, Express, React, and Node, it won't cut it. The new industry standard requires you to master Next.js, server components, and LLM, large language model API integrations. This is the ultimate game changer for actually getting shortlisted.
Let me give you a really practical example of just how powerful this is. In a standard e-commerce app, a basic keyword search just matches exact words, right? Which honestly often yields pretty poor, irrelevant results. But if you implement an AI smart search using an LLM API, the app actually understands user intent. With just 5 lines of API code, if a user types something like running shoes under 2,000 rupees, the AI completely understands exactly what they mean and shows relevant products. Having a feature like that on your resume, it instantly puts you in the top 10% of applicants.
Finally, Section 6, job and interview prep.
So you've got the skills, you've built the AI edge, but now you need to conquer the realities of a very competitive job market. And here is a truth that honestly shocks a lot of people. You need to start applying for jobs in month 3. Yes, literally, before you have completely learned the backend. Why would you do that? Because in a highly competitive market, just scheduling an interview takes 2 to 3 months. Getting those early interviews, even if they end up in rejections, is absolutely crucial. It is the best possible way to learn exactly what employers actually want and the specific types of questions they're asking right now. When you finally get those interviews scheduled, your strategy needs to be threefold. First, research the company's specific tech stack and any recent news. Second, heavily prepared to explain every single project on your resume flawlessly. And third, do mock interviews. Practice with your friends, or honestly, just record yourself on your phone. Your application cadence should be pretty aggressive too. You want to be sending out 10 to 15 applications weekly, updating your resume every 2 to 3 weeks with whatever new skills you've learned, and taking meticulous notes after every single interview so you never, ever make the same mistake twice. If you follow this structured roadmap, just look at the incredible output you will have achieved by the end of month 6. You're going to have 5 to 7 solid GitHub projects, you'll have solved 150 to 200 leak code problems, sent out 50 to 100 job applications, built star AI integrated portfolio pieces, and likely secured 1 to 2 solid job offers. Oh, and by the way, month 6 is when you finally tackle advanced DSA, like dynamic programming, because by then you'll have actually built the pattern recognition needed from your previous 150 problems to understand it without getting super frustrated. As we wrap up here, I really want you to take this one piece of advice to heart. Focus on quality over speed. If you're learning full-time, 6 months is super realistic. But if you're learning part-time, maybe giving 2 to 3 hours a day, this roadmap might take 9 to 12 months. And you know what? That is perfectly okay. Consistency and a really deep understanding of what you're building will always trump just rushing through a timeline to check some boxes. One last thing, learning in complete isolation, it seriously limits your growth. Discussing and explaining concepts to other people is where the real aha moments happen. So are you looking for a coding buddy? Drop a comment below with your current learning phase and connect with a peer or a mentor. Building a network is honestly just as important as writing the code itself. The 2026 roadmap is right here in front of you, but the hardest step is always the first one. So ask yourself, are you going to be part of the top 1% defining the future of AI development, or will you just be another basic developer left behind? Let's get to work.